When I was going through middle school, I wasn't afraid of a lot of things. I was 5'2", 95 pounds, soaking wet, and absolutely lethal at Fortnite. Now, even though I was that cool of a kid, I did have one weakness, and that was talking to new people. There wasn't anything that scared me more in the world than talking to new people and being the one to initiate a conversation. Now, going through middle school and the start of high school, this really kind of was a burden on my life because I wanted to do things and I wanted to get better, especially playing basketball and do a lot of things that I enjoyed, but I'd be so socially awkward and I'd be so nervous that it would hinder my progress and hinder my ability to go do things. Like, I'd want to go get better at basketball, but I was scared when I'd see other people playing. I'd be scared to go up and actually ask them if I could play on the court. I remember in middle school, I used to go stand at the basketball court every day for like the first couple months in school before it was actually winter and there's snow on the ground. And I would literally stand there wanting to play, but I'd be too scared to ask. But if people would ask me if I wanted to play, I would say, "Nah, I'm good. I'll just watch." And I wanted to play more than anything in the world, but I was so awkward that I wouldn't go play just because I was scared of new people. And it took me a long time to actually get over that fear, and it took me a long time to be comfortable talking to new people, to the point where I'm now traveling. I just spent 2 months traveling around New Zealand. I'm currently in Australia, all by myself. I knew absolutely no one when I got here, and just initiating new interactions and talking to new people every single day, and it's just become my normal reality. And if you would have told my 13-year-old self that I was doing this, he probably would have ran away, that he probably would have denied every single bit of it. But just because he was that awkward and so scared of the possibility of talking to new people. And I find this with a lot of people. They're really cool people and they have a lot to say and a lot of opinions, but they don't talk to people unless there's someone they know or someone initiates the interaction with them. They don't have that capability, or they're just too scared to go and start actually talking to new people, and they want to learn how to do it. And the answer that no one wants to hear is that you just have to go start talking to new people. You don't need a full guide on how to do body language and give pickup lines for starting new conversations and stuff. You just need to go and start talking to people. You just have to adopt the mindset that I'm gonna go outside, and if I see someone who I want to talk to, I'm gonna say something, because that's the only way to get better. This skill of talking to people is just like anything else that you do in life. It's something that you have to progress. The example that I love to use is just getting started in the gym. When you first walk into the gym, being a skinny guy who's 5'4" and 95 pounds like I was, you're not gonna get jacked after your first workout. But when you've been going to the gym for 6 months, a year, and you've done 300 workouts, naturally your physique is gonna start to make some progress. And the thing about going to the gym is when you first walk in there and you start to lift that weight, it kind of hurts. It kind of feels not enjoyable once you start lifting that weight. And the next day you feel kind of sore. But as you go to the gym more, you start to enjoy that burn when you're lifting that weight. You start to enjoy feeling sore the next day because you know you've actually had a good workout once you've done that. And it's the same with initiating interactions with people and talking to new people. When you first start, it feels like something that's so scary. It feels like you can't move when you're trying to talk, or you just stumble on your words and everything. But the more you do it, honestly, you start to enjoy that nervousness that comes with talking to new people. And even though I've talked to so many new people on this trip, sometimes I still feel that resistance to start a conversation, oh, they won't want to talk to me, or oh, they're busy. But turns out most people, and most of the time, they actually are willing to have a conversation with you, as long as you don't do it in a disrespectful way and you don't interrupt them while they're trying to do something. Like if they're cooking something and with a bunch of boiling water and it's going everywhere and they're spilling everything, that's not a good time to be "Excuse me, sir, do you know where the frying pans are?" You obviously have to have some common sense, but majority of people will be down to have a conversation with you. I remember in June of 2022, once I'd really started to kind of expand who I was talking to on a regular basis and improve my ability to actually start conversations. At the end of this month, I was taking a trip to Montreal, which is one of my favorite places I've ever been in Canada. And I was taking a trip there with my best friend for about a week, a little bit more than a week. And we were just going to be in the city doing things. And I And in my mind, as I was going, I decided that this trip was going to be the one where I initiated as many new conversations as I could, because I was starting to kind of build up some confidence in myself. I had just finished a marathon. I just released an album. So that insecure kid was kind of starting to fade away, and I was kind of starting to adopt this new belief about myself. And I knew that going to a new city, I'm not really going to see any of these people again, right? So the more interactions I get, this was kind of like my training camp, right? I just wanted to go initiate as many interactions as I could and just get used to talking to new people. And I had a lot of successful interactions. I talked to the people I sat beside on the plane on the way there and on the way back. I talked to people in like bookstores, at like music festivals, and like all the places that we went to, in the gym. And I tried to talk to a lot of new people, and most of the interactions went good. I was still pretty awkward, I'd say, but I was getting a lot better. But there was one distinct interaction that I remember that just everything that went wrong pretty much could have gone wrong. It was when I was standing in line to get something called a beaver tail, which is just kind of like this treat. And my friend was standing like further up in the line than I was here, and I noticed this like girl behind us. And again, I was still coming out of that awkward phase, and in my mind I was like having like warfare of like the mind, like, oh, you need to talk to someone, you can initiate an interaction here. And the other part of my mind was like, no, it's a girl. Like all the alarms were going off. Like 8th grade Colby would have been shitting his pants right there. And after about like 30 seconds of like going back and forth, eventually I just tried to ask in French what kind of beaver tail I should get. And I stumbled on all my words, and she eventually just kind of laughed because I'm not that good at French. And eventually we just started talking and having like an okay conversation. And I was in there, like the conversation started flowing. And eventually after like a couple minutes, reality just kind of hit me. And it's like 8th grade, it's kind of like I was just like projected back into that 8th grade version of myself where I couldn't talk to people, and I just froze. Like I couldn't think of anything. My mind just like didn't work. And we were talking, and like eventually the conversation just died, and I remember just standing there for like 45 seconds without saying anything. And eventually I just kind of like turned back the other way without ever saying anything, and just awkwardly standing there in line waiting till I could actually order my beaver tail. And I could just see my friend in front of me just like snickering on how badly I just like, you could say I blew it, but it was still progression. And the thing was, as I was thinking about this after about like 15 minutes later when we were leaving the theme park, all I had to say there was like introduce myself. That's all I had to do. We had talked for like 3 minutes. I literally just needed to ask what her name was or introduce myself, and then I could have sealed the deal. But unfortunately I didn't. But the thing was, I wouldn't have learned that, and I wouldn't have learned that I make that mistake a lot, and I wouldn't have learned that I made that mistake a lot where I didn't introduce myself until like talking to someone for like 20 minutes if I didn't have that experience. And once I kind of learned that, I just started to do it naturally. And since I had that experience, I learned that thing from it. And that's the way that you want to go about learning to talk to new people. Each experience is training. It's training for the next one. You're going to learn something. You're going to mess up. But the more you do it, the more you're going to learn. And naturally, the easier it's going to become. With that being said, if you don't know already, my name is Colby Wallace. I'm an 18-year-old artist from Canada. And if you like videos like this about how to improve different aspects of your life, and you want to hear some of my original music, you might as well subscribe. Not sure what you're waiting for. It's a win for you. It's a win for me. And if you want to join our free community on how to beat your phone addiction and start using social media in a productive way, there's a free community in the description. If you want to hear my original music, also in the description. And with that being said, never stop creating, my friend, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.